Once the money stops, so does her affection. So she's your girlfriend. You look at her as a girlfriend like you would in the West. You're financially supporting her. You kind of got this feeling like, okay, well, if I'm down on my luck and I don't have any money, I'm sure my girlfriend will stay with me. She won't. 99% of the time, she won't. Why? Not because she doesn't have feelings for you. Some of them will have feelings for you. But again, it's going back to family and money. She has to have that money machine rolling all the time so that she can support her poor family. And even if it's not for that, she's going to continue the good life. She doesn't want to go back to poverty once she's had a taste of the good life. Number 12. She doesn't trust foreign men. Many bar girls have been lied to, used and abandoned by foreigners in the past. Because of this, she might not take you seriously, even if you're genuinely in love with her. And that's a really good point. I made a video about 18 months ago about a bar girl who actually she worked in Pattaya for about 20 years, and she actually did fall in love with a guy, and she went back to England. But one of the points that she said, when I made that video, one of the points that she explained in that video when she was working in the bars in Pattaya, she couldn't understand why guys would lie. They'd say, "Look, I'll see you later. I'll come back and bar find you later." She said, "Look, we've had a drink, we've had a good time. Why can't they just say, bye? I might see you another time. Why do they have to lie?" And this is how these girls think. They've heard the lie so many times. A guy will say, "Yeah, I've got feelings for you." Maybe the guy will date her for a week, then get bored with her and dump her. That must have happened to her, quite a few times. So whenever a foreigner tells us something, it's in one ear and out the other for obvious reasons. They're not gonna. It's going to take a long time before she knows you're sincere and you mean what you say. Okay. Number 14, she lives in a different reality. Her world is full of fast money, late nights, and constant male attention. A serious relationship with one man might feel boring or unrealistic. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story that I've heard firsthand, and I know to be true. It's not hearsay. I haven't watched it on another YouTube channel. I've actually experienced it. Now, I know a guy in Bangkok, which I will keep anonymous. He fell in love with a girl who worked in Nana Plaza. She was quite a bit younger than him. He was fairly well off. He wasn't poor. I wouldn't say he was rich, but he was doing okay. And he just fell for this girl, and he started bar finding her every night. And eventually she moved in with him. He bought her a lot of nice gifts, some gold, and paid money to her family and her mother and everything. And they were together for about 9 months, 8 months, something like that. One day she turned around to him. She said, "Look, I'm bored. I want to go back to my bar." Now, he couldn't understand it because, he'd looked after her. He'd financially looked after her. Emotionally looked after her. She was living with him. She had no worries about bills. Even her mother was getting taken care of, and siblings and everything. But she was just bored. She tried it for 8 or 9 months. She's a young girl. She wanted to be with her friends. She wanted to party and she wanted to drink. So although you're getting on in life and you just want to settle down and have a quieter life, you're with a person who isn't thinking like that. So she wanted to go back to the action, as it were. Number 15, she can replace you easily. In tourist areas like Pattaya, Bangkok and Phuket, there's always a new wave of foreign men arriving. If you leave or stop providing what she wants, she knows another man will take your place. At the end of the day, relationships with bar girls are transactional. If you're looking for real love, it's important to be aware of the reality of these relationships and not fall into an emotional trap. Now, this is what I want to talk about at the end of these 18 points. So I'll skip past this. There's enough explanation in that point without me adding to it, but we'll talk about that at the end, okay? Number 16, she's more loyal to her friends and colleagues. Many bar girls have tight-knit friendships with other girls in the industry. They often listen to their friends' advice more than the foreign boyfriends, especially when it comes to relationship. So Thai bar girls are pack animals, okay? They don't do on their own. A lot of the times relationships have been successful here in Thailand, and the guy's taken the girl back to his country. Now, remember, we're talking about bar girls again. The guy's had a fairly successful relationship. In other words, she stayed with him in his apartment maybe for 6 months or a year. He's decided, okay, this is getting serious. I've got to go back to the UK or wherever he comes from. And he decides to take the girl who was a bar girl and is now his girlfriend back to his own country. That's when it all goes wrong. The reason being, they don't do by themselves, okay? The Thai society, and especially in those bars, they're very almost like a small family. They need the company of each other. And what you'll see typically in small bars around Pattaya, it's a good example, is these girls, a lot of the girls will come to work about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's a ritual. The first thing they'll do is one or two of them will go out, buy a load of food from the street vendors, and they'll sit on a mat on the floor in a big circle, and they'll eat the food together. They'll discuss last night's customers, what they're hoping shopping for today. The makeup goes on, and they're just a whole pack together. Now, when you remove one of those girls out of that environment, she's not going to be happy. She's just not going to be happy. And if you think you can take her out of that environment and have a one-on-one and she's going to be happy, it's just not going to work. Honestly, believe me, guys. Okay, number 17, she's already planning her next move. She might be using you as a stepping stone for something bigger, finding a richer foreigner, getting a visa to another country, or just securing financial stability. So this is something I don't need to talk about too much, because we discussed this earlier on in one of the earlier points, and it is what it is. She's with you, she's making some money with you, she's having a relationship that you're happy with, but she's always scanning the horizon for more money. And if that wealthier person comes along, then there's a good possibility you might lose her to bigger money. Okay, right, number 18, last on the list, and then we'll discuss something that was sent to me. Number 18, she resents foreigners who try to save her. It's the old white knight syndrome again. Some bar girls hate it when foreign men try to take them out of the industry. They see it as interference in their independence and might even view this as controlling. And this is especially true with younger girls, you know, girls who have maybe worked in the bar for a year. They're actually enjoying it. Don't forget, they come from very quiet, poor farming communities a lot of the time, where life is very, very slow paced, early to bed because there's nothing to do, up at the crack of dawn, maybe helping out on the farm. And suddenly here's this young girl of maybe 22, 23. She's in the middle of this vibrant night place. All the girls around her are doing exactly the same as her, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. She's making big money. She's drinking every night. She's on stage dancing and partying. You know, you're not going to talk her out of that. If she's new, especially fairly new, when I say new to the scene, maybe a year, 2 years, maybe a girl who's worked for 20 years, she's getting tired and she wants to move on, and that's a possibility, but certainly not a girl who's only been around for a year or two. Okay, so that's my 18 points. I don't wish to be negative, but the reality has to be, you have to realize reality. Now, I'm going to finish on a fairly positive note. Now, a guy sent me in a story just coincidentally this morning that I'm going to be reading out in probably about a month's time, because I'm quite backed up with, I've got some recorded stories ready for each week. I'm going away next week for 4 days, so I wanted to make sure the stories were all, you know, they were all prepared, ready, so I didn't miss out, as it were. And he sent me a story about him and his girlfriend, which was transactional, which I'm not going to talk about now because I'm going to make it into one of the stories, the Saturday morning stories. But I will just read something. I've printed out something here from the beginning of his story, which is quite true, and I think I'll discuss this a little bit as well. So he's written, when you're in your 20s, 30s, or even early 40s, you should have sufficient charm, wit, intelligence, and good looks to attract a mate without having to hand over any cash. But when you are in your 50s or 60s, you're much less likely to be a babe magnet, and that's when a transactional relationship with a Thai lady may be the right solution for you. Oh, and when the Thai girl stops calling you handsome man and starts calling you papa, then a transactional relationship is most definitely all you're going to get. So he's, in his story, I kind of get what he was talking about. And this might be something for you to think of. If you're an older guy, you're in your 50 up, 50, 60, 65. Now, when you go around the bars and you're buying drinks and ringing the bell, every girl is going to call you handsome man. The bigger your wallet is, the more handsome you're going to become, right? When you run out of money, you'll suddenly not be that handsome man. But all joking aside, there's guys who come out here, who retire out here around my age, and they're looking for a relationship. Now, they realize they're not going to be able to pick up girls in malls, regular girls. They don't go to nightclubs, and they don't want to be on their own. They don't want to be lonely, and they just face the fact and think, you know what? I know it's transactional, I know I'm going to pay, but they try to find a girl who's going to play the game straight, and he will look after them. And what this guy was saying is sometimes that's not a bad arrangement if you're a guy who doesn't want to be on his own. And what he said in his story, without giving too much away, what he said in his story, when he wanted to find a girl to have a relationship, and he realized he was kind of old, and you know, he needed to give the girl something in return. She wasn't going to just be attracted by looks alone. What he decided to do was, as he put it, interview several girls. So he'd take girls out of the bar, he'd take them for dinner, have a drink with them, and just see how they behaved, how their behavior was. And you know, he said some of them were, he'd know straight away they were either immature or they were making up stories about, you know, having to send 50,000 up country because they have a sick grandmother, or just these silly stories that we all know now are true. It used to be the old sick buffalo story you don't hear about so often now. So he'd interview these girls, and eventually he found one that she came across as genuine. And bearing in mind these points that I read out, he's not stupid. He understands all this, but he wanted somebody who was going to, as I put it, play the game. So he was going to look after her. He wanted a relationship, somebody who could put on the back of his scooter, take on holidays, go to the beach with, maybe the islands, but somebody who was not going to be messing about with guys behind his back. When he was, as he put it, when he was with the girl having dinner, he didn't want to be sitting there with somebody who was, as soon as he went to the toilet, she was handing out her line info to the guy on the next table. Okay, and that's going to be a really interesting story, and that can work. So without being, too negative, as I say, that can work. If you come here and you're a guy, you're looking for a relationship, and you're not thinking in a stupid way like these points, like, oh no, that's not true, that wouldn't happen to me. If you can think in a sensible way and think to yourself, okay, well, I've got something to offer the girl, she can look after her family, I'm not poor, but I want somebody who's going to give me genuine love, or at least on the surface of it, and she's not going to be handing out her line ID to other guys, perhaps that's the way to go.